Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meier. Iranians around the world are closely watching the war unfold, longing for a free Iran. Demonstrations in support of freedom for Iran have been seen in almost every corner of the world, including on an island down under. Joining us now is Gilda Kirkpatrick, a prominent Iranian-born New Zealander. She's a marketing director and former TV personality who has been involved in organizing demonstrations in New Zealand. Gilda, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you. Now, celebrations have been taking place around the world, expressing gratitude to the United States and Israel. What is the sentiment among the international Iranian diaspora right now as they watch the war unfold?
Hi, Meier. Thanks for having me here. Iranians across the world, I think majority of them, if they're not connected to the regime, are celebrating. They're extremely hopeful and are very thankful to President Trump for taking these steps in order to get rid of a very horrible terrorist regime that's been dominating the region for very many years.
And Gilda, you've been protesting in solidarity with the Iranian people, calling for U.S. intervention for weeks before this strike. Some were worried that the U.S. would not come to the Iranian people's aid after the president vowed it would if protesters were killed by the regime. What was your reaction when you woke up and saw the news?
I absolutely believe that it was necessary to get aid from USA, from President Trump and Israel, because obviously this regime has proven year after year for 47 years that you cannot negotiate with them. They will not do the right thing, and they will pursue their terrorist activities. So we trusted and believed that President Trump would stand by his promise. After all, he's a man of action, and everything that he's so far promised to American people and to international community has come true. So we had utmost trust in him and didn't doubt for a second that he would back up from what he had promised Iranian people.
And for the United States and Israel, the operations against the Iranian regime go beyond helping the Iranian people, with both countries saying the regime posed an imminent threat to their nations and citizens. Now, as someone who lived through the Iranian Revolution of 1979 and has seen its evil up close, what would you say to anyone doubting the threat posed by the regime?
I honestly don't think that people who are, saying that they don't believe that regime would cause any threat or they have any evil plans, they're lying to themselves, because you don't have to sit there and analyze it. You can just look at the history and the pattern of their behavior. They have been dominating the terrorism in Middle East for a very long time. Just like how the Nazi regime was operating, they are the father of terrorism in the region, and they've spent billions of dollars in order to prompt their proxies to create this stability within the Middle East region. It's geopolitically, Iran and the countries surrounding it are extremely important to the global energy market. It's a trade route. As a result of this stability in all those countries, there are plenty of, immigration, people who've gone to Europe and migrated. It really, you cannot deny taking away this terrorist regime from the region is not going to help the global market and also global stability.
And Gilda, the international media is often critical of President Trump. What has been your perspective of how the U.S.'s operation in Iran is being portrayed in the media? Do you think people are getting the full picture?
I think President Trump is the only president in a very long time who has a clear vision, who understands exactly what steps needs to be taken. He understands that you cannot make deals or negotiate with a terrorist regime that has continuously lied and failed every attempt to come to the table with anything productive or logical or rational. They continuously pursued their power grabbing scenario and plans, and basically they managed to fool previous presidents like President Obama. He made a terrible deal for America and for the people of Iran who've been taken hostage basically for 47 years by this terrorist regime. There was no option left, and lucky for us Iranians, and I believe the rest of the world, President Trump had the gumption and vision to actually go ahead and do something proper for the first time in a very long time, something that's effective and is going to help the globe.
And Gilda, in some of the videos we've been playing on screen, you can see the Iranian lion and sun flag alongside the New Zealand, Israeli, and American flags. What would you say to those who say the United States and Israel should let the Iranian people fight this battle alone?
Well, during the World War II, if the Allies, the coalition, did not help and unite behind what was happening against Nazi Germany, I think the whole Europe would have looked completely different today. The world would have looked very different today. Fortunately, at that time, the Allies came together. They helped and paid a big price, but they got rid of the evil Nazi regime. So how Iranians are looking at this situation isn't that America and Israel fighting against Iran. We look at it as a liberation operation, and we 100% support it. And we don't see there is no other way to get rid of the Islamic regime. They had to be confronted the way they are. And frankly, there have been attempts on the life of President Trump, assassination by the Iranian regime. They've admitted to it themselves. Continuously, I mean, Western media, unfortunately, are not aired. They do not show what goes on Iranian TV. All the speeches from the clerics and the leaders, they continuously, on daily basis, are threatening America, saying that America and Israel must be wiped off the face of the planet, or the big evil. What they did in October 7 with Hamas. It was directly coming from the regime in Iran. I think they've exhausted every avenue to, prove that they are really, really the enemy of Israel and America, and not only that, but civilized Western democratic world. There is no if and doubt. You just need to go back and look at what they've been doing. Somebody had to put a stop to this terrorism activity and funder in the region. And luckily, President Trump and Mr. Netanyahu took the initial helped.
And Gilda, freedom is a very powerful thing. A number of Iranians we've spoken to have said that fundamentally they long for freedom of belief, freedom of expression, and human dignity. What does this movement mean to you?
I think it's the first basic right for human being is to be able to have the very much first steps of being free in order to think, present themselves. It's a right for every human being. And coming from Iran, the country that 2,500 years ago created the footprint for human rights under the Cyrus the Great, to see that we are going to have that 2,500 years later with the help of our allies. It has ignited a new hope, very positive feelings for 90 million Iranians who've been living under such oppression, and also 12 million Iranians outside of Iran who had to flee the country and live in the West and have their children in the West in order to have their basic rights as human beings. I think it's something historical. When the regime falls, I think it will set a whole new perspective for a lot of other countries that are dealing with dictatorship. It is extremely important to have your freedom for our children.
A historic moment for sure. Gilda Kirkpatrick, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.